Hello, thank you everybody who is watching us. I am Camilo Amaral. I'm a professor at the Federal University of Goiás, and I will be sharing this session today. Today we have a lecture by Professor Angioletta Voghera from the Politecnico of Turin, the department at East, and we expect around 6 minutes, and probably we're going to make a small break in the middle. The lecture is entitled Landscape Design Methods, Experimentation Along Rivers, and at the end we will have a question and answer session. So please share your comments and questions on the live chat, and we will collect and discuss them after the lecture. Please identify your institution or the city where you're speaking from. For those wishing for a certificate, please find the link of the Google form in the chat. This lecture is part of the permanent forum of Project, City and Processes, and it is an initiative of the post-graduation program Project and City and the Project Processes Lab. And it is also in a partnership with the Journal Jatobá. Please find the description of those in the YouTube description. The permanent forum started in 2011, had many different formats, but this year, due to our difficult situation, we went virtual and global. And for this reason, we should also share solidarity with the victims and with COVID-19 pandemics and for those who are caring for the sick. This new permanent forum of project, city and processes, and to discuss the different processes of projected analysis of the city, but also how we can think of the city itself as a social process. So it focuses on critical ways of thinking the city and the possible and impossible ways to intervene on it. So considering also all the challenges and crises we are living today, and perhaps today the lecture will help us to figure out some paths and some solutions for our environmental crisis. I would like now to gladly welcome Professor Angioletta Voghera, who will be speaking for us virtually from Turin, Italy. And thank you. Hi. Thank you very much for accepting to share your research with us and all your experience you have in planning different levels, and also building a critical connection between architecture and planning, including a vast array of disciplines and knowledge. Also dealing with landscape, heritage, urban planning, ecosystem service, resilience, and so forth. Professor Angioletta Voghera is a full professor in urban and regional design at the DIST, which is the Inter-University Department of Regional and Urban Studies and Planning at the Politecnico of Turin. And she teaches both in the undergraduation and post-graduation, both in urban planning and architecture programs, supervising PhD students, and also participate in different interinstitutional and international postgraduate programs. She is a member of the World Commission of Protected Areas and in the International Union for Conservation of Nature. She's also sitting in the IUCN Green List Commission and is coordinator of the Landscape and Biodiversity Community of the Instituto Nazionale de Urbanística. She's also sitting in many advisory boards for different national and local planning councils. So she also has like an outstanding practical experience in environmental planning, and she has developed many experience in river contracts. I believe she will be sharing some of these experiences with us today. She is also a member of the Responsible Risk Resilience Center in the scientific board, which is the reference center for interdisciplinary research on resilience. The so-called R3C rethinks risk management to dynamically adapt cities to climatic, social, economical, and environmental challenges through an integrative and systemic approach that works across the scales, sectors, and dimensions. So please find the link of this research center in the description. She has published on topics such as systemic services, design and planning, methodological exchange, with a vast track record. So far I could count was more than 220 publications, including all the papers, but also including an excellent book on planning and architecture, searching for an approach, with Professor Roberta Ingaramo. You can find the link also in this description. In 2019 and 2020 alone, she was involved in many international research, including Interreg, Open Spaces Alpha, Project Resilience, De Nature en Ville, Comparaison France-Italie, Urplot, Regional Planning and Design, From Theory to Practice, Big Open Data and Spatial Analytics, and WeGov Now. So with all this experience and all your willingness to share your knowledge with us, please feel welcome, very welcome for sharing your research with us, and thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for your complete presentation and for your invitation. I'm very pleased to meet on distance your university, and I hope you can see my presentation.
Yes, it's fine.
Okay, I can start. Before you have spoken about my research on landscape, urban planning, and urban design, and also trying to describe the activities, my activities in a multidisciplinary field. In fact, since 2009, I have been working with a colleague of architectural design, that is Roberta Ingaramo, and we worked a lot to try to integrate different methods and approach, starting from urban planning and trying to define a new link for architectural design. So this is the topic of the lesson that is related to two books, Planning and Architecture, Searching for an Approach and Topics and Methods for Urban and Landscape Design. And in these two books with Roberta, we try to integrate different knowledge, visions, and methods to act in sensible territories such river territories are. So, which are the main topics of this lesson and this contribution? I try to describe the contemporary issues of design that are social, political, argumentative, research and innovation that have social, political, argumentative, research and innovation aspects. And I will try to discuss with you some experimentation and practices on river landscape, in which we also with our students, but also in the professional field, to innovate cities and infrastructure, and trying to define some scenarios that will try to contribute for resilience and sustainability. These are the two main aspects of our recent activities. So the first field is related to the role to design to construct policies, starting from the consideration that the city and the territory are the outcome of a political project that develops in space and in time, and for For these projects, essential is the role of design in forming territories and in constructing landscape that are the result of political issues, theoretic issues, methodological issues, and also formal intentions. All of these aspects, all of this role of design are using special planning, that is my discipline, as the main technical tool. In fact, urban planning can contribute for the definition of the political projects in spatial terms, and is essential also to redesign the form of citizenship. So we can go to the second aspect. Design is a political issue, a political aim. Design is essential also to construct knowledge. In fact, the role of architectural and urban design, such as Vigano and Secchi told, are a producer of knowledge. In fact, design can define descriptions of spaces, situation, of the role of actors in their relationships, can be used to define new orders and rules for acting, for defining new practices in the territory and in the landscape. In fact, it can be used to produce sequences of action, but also decisions in its relation to urban planning, or scenarios, and so design should be considered as an act of proactive knowledge, defined through an open process in which the all socioeconomic and institutional actors can act and can interact and define a solution for the future of the city and the future of spaces. Design is not only a value on a political issue, and it's not only a knowledge issues, but it's essential also for research. If in this aspect, design express is epistemological value as a tool of research, as Sean told, taking in consideration also social value, social perception. In this view, it becomes essential also to define comparison, assessment, and interpretation in relation to people hopes. This aspect is important in Europe, in which 40 countries have ratified the European Landscape Convention, that is a soft law that is essential to define a landscape conservation, planning, management, and design scenario. So it's also important to define some issues, some path for resilience. In this moment, the concept of resilience is so redundant in practices, in urban planning, also in urban design, and it has been used in different meanings because it has a great attractiveness in order to solve and to define new scenario for solving urban challenges. So my colleague Patrizia Gabellini described this paradigm as a semantic utopia, because it helps to define multidisciplinary views and multidisciplinary concepts, to find many possibilities of social and disciplinary disciplinary aggregation around a very vague definition. Normally, in our research center, in the Responsible Risk Resilience Center, we start to define a resilience paradigm using this definition of Saramiro. Urban resilience refers to the ability of an urban systems to maintain and rapidly return to desired function in the face of a disturbance, and also to adapt to change and to quickly transform systems. This definition considers the crisis as an occasion to make an adaptation and transformation, and it's particularly important in this crisis period, also related to the COVID pandemic problems. Resilience thinking is particularly relevant in planning theories. It is used to consider the place-based impact of short, long-term socioeconomic and environmental changes. It's also been used to interpret potential of creativity and innovation on a local and wide scale of territorial system, and it's also essential to frame prevention and to study solution and to implement intervention at different scales. We can consider this paradigm in a co-evolutionary perspective using the Davoudi literature, in which resilience is a driver to change policies and practices of institution, of organization and social network, in which the robustness of the system is linked to social capital, and so it's linked to trust and social network, and it's also linked to the institutional learning capacity and to the social memory as a factor essential to define adaptation solution, and it needs a transscalar and also a transtemporal integration to construct visions that are needed to build knowledge and to construct adaptive governance. So it's an important metaphor to consider also spatial planning. In planning, we consider resilience not a fixed asset, but a continually changing process. It's the becoming of the system, not the being of the system. And it can be used to transform, and this period is particularly useful to transform crisis to opportunity to innovate urban system. So we use the reference of Piquet to understand how the meaning of resilience as a metaphor for spatial planning can be used to consider the resilience as a metaphor or an act of an imagination which can stimulate specific technical meaning and technical evolution, which can be also used in non-technical way to construct also social scenarios. So it is an important role to represent the territorial system and to enforce the technical iteration and the responsibility of social actors. In fact, I and my colleague in a recent publication consider the Piquet theory to analyze the role of resilience for urban design, considering especially the role for the ecological design and landscape design, in which resilience is essential to construct the co-evolution of the system, but also to communicate the innovation and to guide the monitoring phase of the application activities of some scenarios. If we consider the landscape design as ecological project for resilience. We should can trace back to the landscape urbanism and ecological urbanism, to the theories of Corner, Pollack, Berger, and so on. And in this lecture, I will try to describe some experience developed in Italy, that try to develop in our territories a blue and green infrastructure framework based on a participatory decision-making tool that is the river agreement. That is the river agreement. We can read some interesting experience that use the blue and green infrastructure as a new incremental structure for the resilient cities in some cities in USA, and also an example interesting is the scenario for the resilient Detroit that use some local and vast scale projects such as parks, plazas, wetland areas, lake recreation centers, forest, community gardens, and remediation field to redefine a new scenario for the city inspired by a multimodal greenways and so on. This scenario is related, this example, this USA example are related to the Italian experience of river agreement as a case study of application of blue and green infrastructure for designing the city and the territory in order to promote, produce a resilient innovation of the city. And I'm tracing back also to the lecture that Camilo made in Italy that was related to this role of this ecological design to construct an interface, a platform for action in the city using nature, using ecological and environmental design. That is so interesting and it's so it's related to our approach. River agreement it can be used and after we speak more about how this method works, but which are the issue? It can be used to recover river landscape, to make a renaturalization or a restoration of river territories, to develop dynamic landscapes enforcing resilience and resistance of the territory, and also acting for redefining, redesigning the borders between spaces. Also enforcing riverfront fruition for the well-being and of the cities and the population. And also it can be used to act for a resilient coevolution of the system, because it's strategic for security, for climate change action and for mitigation. But let me tell something about how river agreements works. River agreements are a recent governance tool used in Italy very largely, because we have 250 river agreement or coastal agreement, landscape agreement that are voluntary agreement or contract. We can include different stakeholders to define a common strategy framework for urban planning and for urban and landscape design. So it's a voluntary tool. It's not based on a top-down approach, but is based on a bottom-up approach, and is based on the inclusion of the social actor in the define of participation scenario. So It is an interesting governance tool, also not only in Italy, but also in other countries in Europe, like France or Belgium, in which these tools are considered strictly related to the utopia of contemporary design. This is a position of Choe and also of Minot, in which they stress the important role of agreements to construct landscape and local development projects. But river agreements are not only an inclusive participative method to define a strategy, basing it on the inclusion of population in the decision-making process. It's also an opportunity, and it has been for us, for me and Roberta and Garamo, to read, to interpret the complex dynamics of the territory and the landscape, focusing the attention on the relationship between river and the built areas. It has been, can be used to consider, to develop a new sustainability, a new resilience inspired experimentation involving different scales. The strategic scale that can be used to negotiate among actors, conflict, interest, but also to integrate the policies for socio-economical development of the territory, to integrate different territorial and local planning scenarios, but also to integrate some architectural design. And at the operational scale, it can be used to define specific projects. In Italy, it has been introduced by a national law, and in Piedmont, in my region, in which I worked with the two experimentation on Sangone and Stura that will be present after. It has been introduced by the water protection plan in application of the European Directive Water Framework that wants to promote the security and the quality of waters in river basins. It is a tool characterized by a territorial negotiated governance, and it can be used to share landscape project, basing it on the inclusion of socio-economic stakeholders. The governance, the river agreements can be used to share landscape projects. In fact, is really important to define a strategic framework for the water protection based on the assessment and the valorization of the health of ecosystems in river bed, but also in peripheral areas, but also it's essential to define a compatibility of land uses and to consider also settlement pressures on rivers environments, and it's useful to define a new relationship between territorial and local policies and projects, guiding some experimentation that you can see in the example after, in order to promote climate change at different scales. So it can be considered an important tool for climate change adaptation and mitigation. This is one aspect that can be we recognize in Italy also in the National Plan for Adaptation to Climate Change that is in course, and it has been discussed in 2017, in which river agreements are considered essential because they can be used to define participatory action for the management of the resources, and also for define some scenarios of adaptation and mitigation in order to control emission, to consider the vulnerability of the territory, and to reduce impacts of climate change, to promote healthy territories. This aspect is particularly relevant also in relation to COVID, and that they are important because using river agreement you can act for climate change starting from local action and trying to address to global outcomes. These tools, in fact, are characterized by a multidisciplinary approach, and so are characterized by a knowledge integration, by a participatory approach. They define local specific measures, and they start from an integration of policies at different scales, at different levels, and they make an integration among sectoral actions. So they are essential for the anti-fragility of the territory using Taleb definition. This is a sketch in which I can try to describe the key role of the river agreement. They are a voluntary participative method in which that can we use to integrate planning action and planning and projects. Planning action and projects, guiding also local plans, but also vast scale plans, provincial or regional plans that consider a river agreement as a tool for application of specific policies. But also they can be used to define policies and projects that integrate agriculture, nature, city issues, but also that promote a scenario for the local development of the economy and the society. And some of the experimentation, some that I will explain after related to the STUR are developed and implemented using the compensation fund of environmental pressures. Starting to describe which is the role of the river agreement for resilience, for promoting co-evolution of fluvial territory. So we can use river agreement to improve people's knowledge on rivers territories and also social awareness of impact of human activities on these sensible areas. We should use them to include the society in the identification and also in the implementation of specific design solutions. We can use them to define a framework for innovative changes in planning, but also in urban and architectural design. We will see some experimentation after. We can use them to build a convergence between bottom-up and top-down strategies and practices, using the inclusion and the negotiation among institutional and social actors. We can use them to transform this continuous action, partial action, into a systemic and organized model of development of the basin territories, river basin territories. We can use them to promote sustainable development, but also the valorization and protection of the landscape, basing it on sharing strategy with local actors. In a recent publication on land use policy in 2019 that you can see in the last part in my references. I try to describe all of the aspects that can be referred and that can be used to make a relation among river agreement tool and resilience theories. So, river agreement are reflective, are flexible, are creative, are inclusive, are integrated and robust, and can be used to solve complex issues related to security, fragility, the need of healthy city, of equality, of well-being, of an interesting landscape in which we can live. And so they are essential for the evolution of a basin area. Here you can see all of the experts describe of this resilient approach using river agreement. River agreement are reflective because they are based on an incremental process. That starts from the knowledge of the territory, from weakness, strengths, opportunity, and so on. It's a flexible tool because it's a governance tool. It's not a plan. It's a governance participative tool that construct, you can see after, master plan and specification based on shared strategies, based on the needs of populations that live in the territory. It's creative tool. It's based on the construction of a networking between top-down and bottom-up actions, and it's based on the interaction between societies, and that it is essential also to innovate individuals. It's based on inclusion because it's a voluntary agreement that in which based on participation, social learning, consensus building process. It has been constructed using workshops, roundtables, seminars, and is supported by self-organization practices. It's based on integration of different measures and different planning tools in long and short term, and is robust. In fact, implementation of regeneration actions and its enhancement is based on the community engagement, and that is essential to make operational the scenario. If we can understand how this tool is particularly important in our country, I have already told you that we can recognize 250 practices in Italy. We can also understand how these strategies are relevant for my territory, for the city of Turin, that is a town of rivers. We have 4 important rivers, and in 1993 we have approved a project that is a Turin town of water, that promotes the restoration of river banks, the creation and integration among river parks, and the valorization of the territory starting from the river. We use this tool to construct new territorial landscape scenarios in different areas, involving the vast scale. The scale of the river basin and its territory for enforcing landscape values, but also the margins, the borders between territories with different vocation, the borders between city and nature, city and open spaces, city and riverbank, city and agricultural areas to redefine the quality of the landscape of the city, and we define specific focus areas to develop the valorization of the river in order to develop new ecological and fruition network. If we consider the two case studies that I will present, we develop a basin design strategy, the master plan, that you can see at the end related to the Sangone. We define a strategy for river ecosystem and to enforce biodiversity. We design interaction between fruition networks and the environment and the landscape and the rural and natural areas. We identify some socioeconomic and cultural important functions that should be developed also using the local plans and local projects. We try to define new settlement models and urban limits. These activities have been developed using the method of workshop, including social actors and also including association, some group of people, but also students of architectural, biology, agriculture, and urban design and urban planning that try to discuss, to construct a master plan, but also a local project based on a interdisciplinary view in which the main disciplines are town and regional planning, my discipline, architecture and urban design, and landscape ecology. This workshop and the design activities developed during the workshop was the starting point for the definition of an integrated multi-scale project. This project, that is the project that I and Roberto Ingaramo try to define together, searching and approach an integration of method between planning and architecture. This integrated multi-scale project has no scale limit and can be used to develop scenarios for an area or regional, provincial or local, or also for architectural design. It can be used to overcome the traditional hierarchical vision of urban planning and architectural design, trying to develop, integrating these two different phases, these different phases in time, integrating them in a continuous process that links the various scales of design action. But also it tries to integrate natural, agricultural, urban areas that are for us equally important in the design of the territory at the vast and at the local scale. And we start to consider open areas and these areas to define the design scenarios. The integrate multi-scale projects, as in our experimentation during the workshop, during the students' activities, we used in the frame of the river agreement two tools. The action contract, that is a participatory planning tool used for supporting the decision among public and private actors in the decision-making process at the local scale. So we have planning tool that can be used at the frame of the construction of the scenario. We have the river agreement that integrate policies at different level, and we have an action contract that can be used to define also specific project and to make a decision involving also private actors for define an architectural solution or a urban design of a private strategic area for the river valorization, for example. And we use also another tools, the translating section, that is a technique that is for us essential to link different scales for this redesigning territories and landscapes. This technique is inspired, it's a three-dimensional section integrating various scales to create vision and specific local projects, and it try to re-examine some experimentation, valley section of party grades, and also in some aspect of the transit planning of urbanism. And this three-dimensional technique can be used to consider at the same time the various elements of the system, focusing on the relation among open space and built areas. And it can be used for us because in our experimentation it was essential to define a link between town planning and architecture, and we use it to operate at the same time in three-dimensional and two-dimensional mode, and offering a tool in order to support and to verificate design hypotheses, also with private actors, and to construct the discussion with non-expert, with the social actors. So these techniques and also the action contract, the delivery agreements open in the multi-scale integrated projects methods, participatory projects in which all of institutional and local actors can interact, and in which public spaces are the focus element to redefine built and open areas in a cross-scaling and multidisciplinary point of view. In this view, you can see some sections that represent a relation between different elements of the urban fringe, of on the river banks, also infrastructure, buildings, housing and services, private garden, and so on. In this view, architecture and nature are at the same hierarchical level in the design. And this was the first objective of our experimentation. If we consider for our work some example in which the design scenarios is defined through an integration of different scalar policies, to produce scenarios for water security and quality, to enforce environmental landscape system, and also to define local coherent projects. Other examples that are essential for our experimentation is the concept of density and lightness that use starting from the Lean team in Grand Paris design activities, in which Voghera was promoted, and the lightness can be seen as an essential resource to work on the project of the city, increasing the permeability, increasing the flexibility, strengthening connectivity, creating mixité, and redefining all of the spaces. Other aspect essential is to work for us is to work on links and integration, creating a new system of relation. The issue of the rebuilding the city, considering the cities as a continuous system, which should be transformed, integrating physical and functional spaces, and renovate all of the aspect of the cities, integrating nodes, integrating place along a river bank. This is a integrating town with river and environmental resources, but also trying to rebuild the margins among cities, nature and open space and agricultural areas. The vision is for us a mirror of the relationship between city and the river and the city. We try to define a meeting place between different realities and a boundary space for the project. The question is, for us, is better to enforce compactness of the margin built along the river, or is better to increase permeability, redefining the spaces, the open areas, integrating open areas from the river into the consolidated tissue of the city. Integrating the topic of the integration is essential. These are some working activities of our students along the workshop during the workshop Design Along the River some years ago, in which students try to integrate the territory through long time, defining also a strategy for spaces and defined in times, and they try to define a strategy based on a gradual transformation using temporary activities that are in the actual scenario of the Piano Regolatore di Torino, of the local plan of Turin, essential, a new destination recognized by our local plan. The topic essential, how to rebuild margins among different areas with different functions, natural, agricultural, built areas and river areas, but also how to define through the project along the river in specific strategic local territories, different ways of living, including sustainability, developing action for climate change, including also technological aspect to transform the city, starting from energy and bioclimatic mixité, for define new scenarios inspired by resilience, defining a different way of living and of basic living on a different quality and on some experimentation in energy production and so on. So we have tried to define the theoretical reference of these activities, starting from the contemporary issues, including the role of river agreement for the sustainability and the resilience of the territory, trying to define how we defined the solution, the design solution that I try to present now. I will present two different territories and two different strategies, the Stura River Agreement design activities and after the Sangone River Agreement activities. Here everybody can see some specific scenarios that includes a different scale of action vast scale and also local scale. This master plan was developed by a group of students in order to define a complex strategy for an important territory of Turin, the quarries of Turin, that is a no-man land. The students try to identify a gradual in time transformation of this degraded and underused landscape in order to make it a part of a new park, territorial park. The last image was more local. This one is a vast scale design that proposes an integrated landscape and territorial strategy for the valorization of the environment of the River Stura. Developing ecological and recreational continuity along the river, trying to integrate green areas in the urban tissue, redefine river-built margins, and trying to define new public space uses and create new polarities. Sorry. This one is another focus that is a focus at the confluence among Ceronda and Stura, and is a vision of gradual reconversion of some industrial areas to create a linear river park, and creating also some structure like a new pool for ecological water depuration. That is an important aspect also of a strategy for sustainability and resilience. All of the activities for the Stura River Agreement are thinking a strategy for the requalification and reorganization of all the industrial productive areas along the Stura River, and try to redefine in these different strategic areas. Some of them are underused, are in crisis, areas are still active, but they try to define a complex territorial strategy that try to promote a co-evolutionary transformative process for contaminating urban fringe, changing their images, and recreating public and private spaces. The co-evolutionary aspect that is related to resilience is in all of the vision for Stura essential, because every innovation should be gradual in time and in space, using also temporary activities. Here we can see an inspired strategy for develop density and light of the city. The strategy starts from degraded mixed productive areas that we've seen before, imagining their innovation and a system of gradual intervention that integrates voids, create new building surfaces, and open the dense cities to the lightness of green area network. Another vision, this one is a vision that tries to define a new park for the fruition of different landscape. The projects try to define some intervention for the fruition of the landscape areas, and each area, each landscape should change in seasons. So they try to make a co-evolution, an evolutionary project considering the different situation of the environment and the landscape in time and seasons. This is a vast scale, a really vast scale area that consider all the basin of the Stura for the valorization of natural, economic, cultural, recreational node in the Stura Valley to develop the tourism in a crisis period. this one instead is related to the pole, the historical node of the Reggia di Venaria, that is an important UNESCO site in the Turin metropolitan area. The student try to transform river banks, integrating open areas with the park, public spaces, and creating different rooms from the natural to the artificialization of nature, linking nature with the city. Instead, the Sangone River Agreement was an experimentation that has been developed before Stura, and it has been developed in a complex territory of Turin and other Moncalieri and other parts of the metropolitan area of Turin, developed using some workshop, and we define some scenarios with students, trying to define the role of the river in the construction of a territorial park, integrating the solution along the river with the other solution inside the city, inside the territory. This is the first master plan that was awarded during the workshop activities. Another example, another topic was developed to integrate activities like farming activities along the river, creating different paths, or integrating network of settlement, creating a new biodiversity scenario for the river, or developing some local points, local facilities to enforce the river park. This activity has been used with students, has been used by the coordination group and by institutional actors to define a plan, to define a master plan scenario that promotes the valorization of the environment and of the landscape quality and the touristic network along the river, try to control pressures, try to define some specific interrelated projects for ecological system, but also for touristic network, for public services along the river. This is the master plan that was approved in 2009. It was the starting point for other activities along the river, some specific projects, and some innovation of local plans. For example, the plan of Pluino was developed after the master plan by the administration, inspired by this solution. So it has been interesting because it has, from the development of a basin scale design strategy for the landscape and the territory, we suggest to institutional actors an ecosystem and biodiversity valorization strategy to promote the quality of waters, and also to redefine the territories and redesign river banks. To design interaction between different environmental and landscape systems, identifying functions and land uses coherent with these scenarios, and also defining new settlement models and urban limits, trying to suggest also some complex, not only a complex strategy, but some projects projects in order to develop a new network along the river and to valorize economic development and touristic services. We can see, you can see some design, specific design for the river that are related, not a specific river, but can be used to construct new living spaces and also to integrate nature in city and use the nature to redefine the face of the city, and that can and also changing the city and the urban design. This activity of integration of vision along river can be interesting at structural level, because we can try to define a new territorial landscape design based on a decision-making process that can be used with the inclusion of population, institutional actors to select elements to be valorized and to identify values. At operational level, it is interesting because each design can be considered as an act for developing community visions and for developing quality of life. So it can be contribute to empowerment to a new governance of river areas. A colleague of mine, Plowright, tell us that it's interesting this experimentation in which he participates because it can include a larger community in design. To conclude, which is the lesson learned for the design, for urban planning, urban design and architectural design. We recognize that design can be used to produce proactive and multidisciplinary knowledge, as a tool for research, for interpretation of people ops, as a methodological. Each design practice can be interesting because they are methodological experimentation at different scales, trying to integrate action at large scale in urban planning and urban design activities with architectural design. We try to define, after this long research activity related to rivers, and try to understand how to proceed when we should make a solution for landscape design. So we try to identify some key aspects, a roadmap. In this view, design for us is to find the right scale to define the transformation scenario, but also to guarantee implementation. And architectural design is essential because it's important also to define the territorial, the regional strategy. Each solution of design is evolutionary, co-evolutionary, in order to link resilience, and is based on incremental process and on an open incremental process. Design so is a tool of knowledge, a tool of decision making for sharing solution and for creating responsibility among actors. The action contract, not only the action, the river agreement, but the action contract that can be used to negotiate solution at local scale among social actors and private actors and institutional actors is essential in this way to create responsibility, to make operational the master plan scenarios. Design also can be used to redefine boundaries and to redefine also institutional architectures, changing institutional aims and objectives, and also to define, and this is the traditional ESPAN, clear morphology and structure. These are the two books fundamental and central for these activities, developed with my colleague that works on architectural design, Roberta Ingaramo, and I have linked each publication you can see during the presentation. So I hope it has been clear. Sorry for my English, for my rapidity, but because I know very well me, and I'm here for you. Thank
you. It was great. Your English is perfect. There is absolutely no problem. Thank you very much for this lesson. It was so vast and so interesting, and the way you're building this dialogue of planning and design using the large scales from the framework, the laws, but also exploring the visualization, the creativity of the design process, and showing us these experimentations of those two different fields that are also very connected in many ways. I think also is very interesting this proposition of acting in the becoming of the system. So it's also a kind of design of the system of the cities we are living on. And we have some questions here.
Okay.
And but I would like to make one that you showed how you use also your studios and your teaching activities integrated with those processes that you are involved. I would like to know a little bit more how you integrate those processes together, and the importance, how you see the importance of integrating these activities of students and the real process going on in the city.
Each of these activities, each of the example you have seen has been based on an integration of professional practices and design studio activities in urban planning and in architectural courses. For us, it is essential because I think that a planner or an architect should develop the capacity to interact with practices, with administration activities, and should work in university starting from the needs of the society and the needs of institutional actors. So each activities I propose to students from my first activities in 2007 was related to some link with administration, or some suggestion of administration, or some specific needs. When we started to work on river agreement, that is based on a participatory process, we include the atelier in the participatory process to define specific solution. It was particularly relevant for institutional actors because before our experimentation, river agreement was a strategic plan with document expressed in in written form, and after the inclusion of architects and urban planners, these tools was integrated by master plans, by some suggestions that was important also for the population to make clear what the river agreement can do. So I try to make a very relevant link among didactical activity and research activities and professional practices.
Nice. And this is interesting also because you teach in an architectural design studio in the program of urban planning and a planning studio in the architectural planning, so you're like in a good position for exploring these dialogues of design and planning. So
see, and it is possible because I'm an architect. Starting, I'm an architect, so I recognize the importance of the urban form and of the physical aspect of the city. And I try to make clear to planners how the building aspect are relevant for their activities, trying to make a link and to make a link in specific group, integrating student of architecture and student of planning. Because the quality of the scenario depends on this integration among different disciplinary field and also different capacity to understand the city and to represent the city.
Mm-hmm. And I also forgot, like, it usually also includes sociology also in one of the ateliers, so there is a very interdisciplinary.
The atelier of architecture for sustainability at the first year of the laurea magistrale, of the master degree, and it has an atelier that integrates the sociology disciplines and architecture and urban design, and this for me an essential step for the quality of the capacity of our architects in their future activities.
We have a question here
yes.
From Thales Lopes de Oliveira. I believe he's speaking from Anápolis. Could you explain more about the concept of coevolution in resilience? Is it a different approach to resilience? What would be the main difference of, yes?
It's an approach dealing with the theories of Simin Davoodi, and it tries to integrate the concept of resilience in planning and the complexity of the planning planning approach to resilience, in which the planning activities is an inner activity of the resilience process, of the resilience coevolution, that is based on the definition of a scenario of transformation based on the inclusion on the responsibility of actors and also social actors. So it's a co-evolutive approach of resilience, because it needs to consider not a being of the system, not a being of, but the becoming of the system, including in each phase of the transformation all of the social actors that can contribute, that can act to make more resilient the city.
Do you think this co-evolution also includes like a evolution of the natural system and the social systems too? Would have a
See, for me, it's a yes, because I think that starting from the concept of ecological resilience, that was inspiring also the planning approach to resilience that I tried to spoken before, the coevolution of the system considers the socio-ecological link among society, nature, that can and should interact in different way to make resilient the city.
Yeah, because the way we are now, it's like in the road to catastrophe. Also.
We are losing now in this moment, because we should make an evolution, a new course to our system, because the society is killed for the environment for too much time.
I have another question from Maria Carolina Mello. She said, great lecture. I see participation is the key concern in river agreements. How you identify and mobilize the stakeholders? Who are the actors that participate more and which are the most important?
Okay, this is a focal point because in the river agreement method, the inclusion is essential. We experienced in many study cases that institutional actors, so the decision makers, participates along all of the phases of the definition of a river contract or a river agreement. And we can include different typologies of schools in the decision-making process, and also some environmental activists, because they participate during the decision-making phase. The difficulties is to open to population and to include who is not so involved with the river issues. So we tried in some experience to define and to use also social network to spread the decision-making activities, trying to enlarge the arena. They are all experimentation, but the real weakness of this process is the difficulties to include the population in this process, a large part of the population, because when the activity starts, the institutional actors that coordinates these activities. For example, in the study case that I presented, the key actor was the Turin metropolitan area. It started to identify specific groups to be involved and in different phases of the process, and they are lacking to open to all population. They try with forum to open a little bit, but it was very difficult to involve social actors.
Yeah, so it's a challenge. We have another question from Lohane Fernandes, who is also a student of our program. What designs can bring of new to planning? Your methodology is different from what in France is understood as urbanism.
I don't know if I understand correctly the question. I think that my methodology is new, especially considering the rigidity of the urban planning in Italy, that it's not so linked with the design activity. It's different in the Italian framework from other situations. Because in Italy, the urban planning defines strategic scenarios, sometimes also without including people that are included only when the first phase of the process of the definition of local plan, for example, has been closed. The institutional actors at different levels define a scenario, and after, at local scale, some designers try to define solutions for specific areas strategic in the frame of the local plan. So river agreement can be used as a framework, and the action contract that I propose can be used to overcome this gap among the definition of policies and the construction of local plan and the definition of specific solution for urban or architectural design. It helps to link different phases during a complex process. And so for me, it has been useful because it has been used for innovate some plans, but also to define some solution for specific projects in the frame of the complex vast scale strategy. We have many vast scale plan, for example, landscape plan at regional level. It defines some policies also for to promote the environmental quality of the territory, identifying a prescription for specific built area that are important because they are historical building and so on. But it's really difficult to have an effect not in considering the conservation aspect of the landscape plan, but to have an effect at local scale in produce design that has a quality, because also the prescription to enhance the quality at vast scale, not the prescription, the indication, the policies have many difficult to enter in local plans and to be used to construct policies, to construct design at local scale. Last year, the Ministry of Cultural Heritage has tried to define some guidelines for architectural quality. And this because I worked as the expert for the urban planning and urban design expert, and we try to identify some key points, methodological points of view to help planners and to help architecture to make operational some vague concept related to quality and to the need of improve and enforce the environmental aspect. And this is an open issue in Italy.
We have another. So there is this. It's an action planning. It's also like working in this becoming that you said, and it's also interesting this thing that you said, because it also somehow like break that linear planning that first you do the scenario, then you just do the design. So it's like doing both at the same time.
Sì, sì.
We have another question from Kairene Maria. I think it's a little bit connected to that. How a river agreement becomes operative? Does it become a law, or is it of the planning system? It's part of the planning system of Italy. Is it different from a basin plan?
Sì, it was introduced by a law related to the environment, but it's different from a basin plan, that is a prescriptive plan for the security of a river. And it's not part of a planning system. It is a tool for negotiating solution independent from the other planning tools. We can see that it's a method to define solution, and it is being recognized by different plans. For example, landscape plans consider this tool as an important tool to promote co-management. Or the rural development plan considers some indication in relation to river agreements. So it has been considered by different policies, different plans, but it's not a plan structured. It's a tool that should be used to integrate different solutions and different policy dealing with different plans. It's quite complicated.
Yeah, complex. There is another question from a professor in our program. Her name is Erika Kneib, and she's saying, congratulations for your lecture, Professor Angioletta Voghera. Thank you for sharing with us. And then she asks, a systemic an ecological approach means to consider many aspects that are directly and indirectly related to urban design. In a pandemic context, the health subject has been highlighted. For example, she continues, do you consider other subjects? Do you consider other subjects, not conventional ones, as health, education, among others, in your methodology, and how?
The objective of the resilience strategy using river agreements and landscape scenarios as the objective to promote well-being and healthy cities. I have doesn't propose you an image of the environmental compensation plan of the Stura that was aimed to enforce the biodiversity scenario related to preserve the main important biodiversity areas and to valorize some others to make more healthy the river territories and the river city. We have seen in our research in this period how is important to conserve, preserve environment and to using natural park areas, natural protected areas as a presidium for biodiversity in our countries. I know that because I have a dialogue with a colleague that has studied the Brazilian situation, I know that you have many problems related to tourism and the role of protected areas in this moment. And so it's not only your situation; it's a global problem, and it identifies how it's important to protect environmental value, to preserve and to control the spillover problems like COVID.
We have one last question. Divided in many here from Lauderico Bastos, which is also a student of our post-graduation program. You showed both Detroit and Turin. Is there similarities around the post for this transformation between the two cities? How is Turin dealing with the residual spaces and the handbag? Then he asks more, is also nature empty space in the city? How can these empty spaces be reused? I heard about programs such as Co-City. Can this help on this reuse of the city?
It's a new strategy that has been developed by the actual administration that is trying to innovate the local plan of Turin, and in this process, one of the key aspects is to renovate, to transform, to regenerate industrial and underused areas using different strategies, also natural and environment or temporary uses that are a new possible land use in the scenario of in the local plan of Turin, in this revision of our planning tools. And we have worked on Detroit. We have inspired by Detroit. Co-City tries to integrate the point of view of actors in defining specific solution, and also trying to develop some co-management solution for open spaces, and it based on a platform also, an ICT platform to involve people and to make decision on public space. One of the atelier area that Camilo knows very well is very close to an area of the Parco Dora, that is one of the local park constructed in an industrial territory, ex-industrial territory. And here, Co-City has been used to define a solution and to understand which use can be introduced in the design of a specific nodes of the park. So it has some opera effectiveness.
Well, thank you. There is some other people like congratulating for the presentation, and thanking you for the presentation. I think was like this lecture is like the ending of the permanent forum this year, but we will continue later. I would like to know if you have any final consideration you would like to share with us.
I would like, if possible, but I don't know if using the forum or using our knowledge networking to understand from your university. We have done a recent lecture of Camilo. Which are the main problem in urban design and architecture, and I would like to understand if your approach on this topic is the same. Are you using participation? Are you interacting with community? I know something about your publication, but I think that this is so important also for my student in the next time.
Yeah, well, we have trying to like connect more the studio work with research and also with outreaching, and I have been inspired also by your experiences and your instruments. I guess we depart from different strategies or different methodologies. I guess mine is still being developed. I'm still working on these ideas, and also together with the students. I see you have very interesting and interconnected with many different actors, and you have this ability of connecting with all this many important social actors, and somehow still have to work more on that. But we have also in our program some projects that we are also dealing in different scales. Some of the teachers also working together with the state of Goiás, for instance, in the how to translate it, is like the recursos hídricos planning, like the planning of the rivers of the
plan,
state.
maybe.
Yeah, but a very generic and large scale. There was also the regional, like the metropolitan plan, also that my university integrated, and a way that they did was also to create a kind of post-graduation course, and the different technicians from different municipalities around the Goiânia, they joined this postgraduate program and helped in the diagnostic process, in the formulation of the plan. So it was a kind of mixed teaching and researching and to developing the plans. So it was also a very interesting research. We have done also one that I showed last year in Caldas Novas, which was integrated with the Ministério Público, and also with an association of the they call like mining of thermal waters, and together we helped in the part of like visualization, design, and also in the part of like conceiving the theoretical approach to the plan. And so we have also been working in different ways, but also with this idea of integrating this, design and plan. So I think it's very fortunate or meeting in the regional design thematic group and in the ISOP context of the scholarship. So I guess we have a lot to exchange ideas. And I'm sure I have more to learn.
Maybe a session on the next EXOP or a summer school. I don't know if you can use this typology of school action. For us,
would be very incredible. We do like integrated between the two universities. That would be a great option. And we have also the summer, but actually our summer is your winter and our winter is your summer, but it's possible to do. If it's in July, it's usually easy. Now we have this difficult situation of the pandemic, and then our calendar is all messed up, but I'm sure, and we can think later, maybe also do like online, as we are like, we have to do this. Here's another professor also from the Pontifical University, and she's saying, Angioletta, thank you very much for sharing your research. This lecture is so important to think about resilience and a sustainable approach. So
thank you to all.
Yeah, so I guess also we can try to keep in touch. This is the last presentation of this year, but we also hope to keep it for the next year, also doing other exchanges. And this is a great idea of doing like a teaching project somehow to integrate all of them. Thank you again for sharing your research. So I hope to see you all in another opportunity. So thank you.
Thank you very much for all, for listening me in my terrible English.
That was great.
I know. Bye.
Bye.